In this episode of Log Jams, I cover Black Boys on Mopeds by Sinead O'Connor. No, seriously.
This is Log Jams.
This is Log Jams.
Shocked by events that took place in Beijing. It seems strange that she should be offended. The same orders are given by her. I've said this before now. You said I was childish, and you'll say it now. Remember what I told you. If they hated me, they will hate you. England's not the mythical land of Madame George and roses. It's the home of police who kill black boys on mopeds. And I love my boy, and that's why I'm leaving. I don't want him to be aware that there's any such thing as grieving. Young mother down at Smithfield, 5 a.m. looking for food for her kids. In her arms she holds 3 cold babies, and the first word that they learned was please. These are dangerous days. To say what you feel is to dig your own grave. Remember what I told you. If you were of the world, they would love you. England's not the mythical land of Madame George and roses. It's the home of police who kill black boys on mopeds. And I love my boy, that's why I'm leaving. I don't want him to be aware that there's any such thing as grieving.
You know, each time I do one of these covers, I feel compelled to sit down and talk to you. By this, I mean talk to a camera in a windowless room. I end up wanting to share my thoughts on the song that in theory you just watched me cover. Thoughts such as, why did I pick this song? What's the history of this artist? What did you learn during the process? I don't know why I'm touching my chin. Does that all sound like a good idea to you at all? I mean, it does beg the question, why do I cover songs on YouTube at all? And wouldn't therapy or gardening perhaps be a better solution? But my original mission with this whole project was to become a better musician And whether that is working or not, actually, I think it is. I do learn quite a lot going through the process of researching, deconstructing, and reconstructing these songs, so I figured I might as well share it with everyone, and it could be useful or entertaining. And gosh darn it, it's the internet, and you can't stop me. So, Black Boys on Mopeds, what's the deal? So normally, I do try and recreate the sounds I hear on the album version of the song I'm recording. This is always an interesting challenge. It forces me to really figure out how my gear works and how to create and record different sounds. But I haven't had a lot of experience recording acoustic guitars, and the attempts I have made tended to sound either too boomy or too thin or just messy with too much room sound or all of the above. So given my lack of skill in this area, I didn't try too hard to match the sound of the album. However, I did try to at least capture the spirit of what I heard, which is a pretty natural but fairly hi-fi and full sound. And at any rate, I gave myself permission to just try and make the guitar sound good, and I figured that would be challenge enough. So I went down some YouTube rabbit holes looking for a somewhat idiot-proof technique for miking acoustic guitars that, one, could make a nice, full, rich sound and fill up the mix. Two, that I could pull off with the gear I already have. Three, doesn't require a great sounding room. And four, doesn't require a lot of knowledge and skill with microphone placement and dealing with phase cancellation issues, because that's hard. And I did find one. It came from the YouTube channel of one Eric Valentine, link in the description below. Eric Valentine is a pretty big time producer and engineer who made his bones in the late 90s and early aughts, producing and engineering actually a bunch of really great records that I love, like all of these, and this, and this, and recently this. And he also produced a bunch of really, really big records that maybe I don't like as much, like this, and this, and this. But hey, guys gotta eat, right? Bottom line though, the dude knows his stuff, and his channel is a treasure trove of information, and he goes into a lot of depth and detail about how he works. And the guy is, well, to say detail-oriented and obsessed with sound would be a massive understatement. The technique I found uses two small diaphragm condenser microphones like these as a stereo pair, set at 90 degrees, about a foot off the 12th fret, pointing up and down like this. And you can see it here in the video. Why do this? Well, one sec. Not very good with props. So bad at YouTube. The mic pointing to the bottom of the fretboard captures more of the high notey strings, and the mic pointing at the top of the fretboard captures more of the low notey strings. Now there's a lot of acoustic guitar miking techniques that also try and capture a broad frequency range of the instrument using more than one mic, something I was going for. But this technique solves two common issues that I really want to avoid. One is the boominess or unpleasant lower mid-range I've experienced having a mic pointing anywhere near the sound hole, which is typically mic to capture more low end. This is sound hole right here. And two, the potential phase cancellation issue that can come up whenever you have two mics pointing at the same sound source, because the sound will reach each mic at slightly different times. Now, because both mics are pointed at the 12th fret this way instead of this way, and because you can lock them into a 90-degree aspect to each other using this handy little stand, you are much less likely to get phase cancellation. Now, I'm already out of my depth here, and phase cancellation to me is like recording rocket science, best avoided by adopting mic techniques that are going to be less prone to it, like using only one mic. Yeah, that would have been a lot easier, and I definitely wouldn't have had any phase issues, but then it wouldn't have been nearly as complicated and time-consuming. So let's talk gear here just briefly. This set of small diaphragm condensers are Rode M5s, and they are not at all fancy. You can get a match pair for just $200 brand new, and this stereo idiot-proof stand thing was just $40 or so. The nice thing about using these small mics is that they're, one, good at capturing the high-end sparkly bits of the acoustic guitar, but also they don't pick up as much unwanted room sound as you would get from something like a large diaphragm condenser like this. And yeah, $240 ain't nothing, but it's astounding how good these mics are for such a low price, even compared to what you could get like 10 years ago. I feel like we are definitely in the golden age of affordable gear. And besides, how many guitar pedals have you bought for $240 or more that make like one dumb sound? I mean, a lot, right? It's not just me. So we sorted out the mic setup, but what about the actual guitar part, and how do we get that big full sound we want? Well, we had a challenge here because you see, Sinead played it using a capo on the 4th fret, using these G, D, and C open chord shapes. Which end up being the B, F sharp, and D, which are the actual chords of the song. Now, it does sound nice and chimey on its own, but it was sounding pretty thin and almost mandolin-y to me, especially in the mix. And I felt like there wasn't quite enough heft to support my voice. And remember, I'm biasing towards sounds good over accurately simulated. So what do? Well, we double it because more guitars is always better. So for guitar number 2, I wanted to make it sound different enough that when I would combine all the tracks, it would sound richer or wider, but not just thicker, you know? Yeah, I know, adjectives describing sound. Well, put another way, I was kind of going for something akin to the sound of Nashville tuning. What's Nashville tuning? Well, a Nashville tuned guitar tunes the E, A, D, and G strings, the top 4 strings, an entire octave above standard, using those really low gauge strings that come in a 12-string guitar pack. Then that guitar is typically doubled with a standard tuned guitar to produce what's kind of like one big guitar part. You can hear it on Hey You by Pink Floyd, Dust in the Wind by Kansas, Gimme Danger by the Stooges, a bunch of Stones songs, including Wild Horses. Anyway, Google it, and I'll provide some links below. So I wanted that sound, but I really didn't feel like restringing a guitar and all that. So I cheated by moving the capo to the 2nd fret and using these A, E, and D open chord shapes. I'm playing the same B, F sharp, and D chords from the song, but in a lower pitch, an octave lower to be exact. So yeah, that's Nashville-ish. And I think that it helped fill out the low end and add it up pretty nicely with the other guitar. But who cares what I think? What do you think? Do you have bad music habits? I know I do. And I was harshly reminded of one of them during this project. I don't know what I need to do to learn this lesson because I feel like I have to learn it over and over again. Maybe I need to have like a real hard conversation with myself. Hey, yep, you. Hey, learn the song. You might be one of those people who can sing lyrics off a sheet after trying it once or twice and nail it, but I am not one of those people, and neither are a lot of you. Learning the melody on the piano or the guitar, I feel like, is a great way to really ingrain it in your head, be more intentional and recognize that you're actually trying to hit specific notes in a melody versus kind of winging it and hoping that you're going to get the pitch from feel. In order to get the timing and the pitch, the inflection, and all the emotion, to get all that stuff right, you don't want to be trying to remember a lyric. And yes, we have digital audio workstations and we can loop record and do 50 takes and comp together, the perfect take. We want this stuff to be organic. Let's not digitize it to death. I could not get my mouth around the line, in her arms, she holds 3 cold babies. Even just saying it now, it's hard to get out. Couldn't get the little pitch lilt right, and I kept saying 3 old babies, which is funny, but it's not the lyric. Although it might be a good name for a podcast. I asked AI to mock me up a thumbnail, and now I can't unsee it. Speaking of lyrics, The lyrics to this song are a lesson in and of themselves. And if you write songs that aren't Gregorian chants and you don't happen to be in the Cocteau Twins, then you're going to write lyrics. I think this song has amazing lyrics, and it's a protest song to boot, which raises the level of difficulty by 1 million. So let's see, what can we learn? If you look at the content of the lyrics as a whole, there are actually two themes or messages going on. First, there's the surface message suggested by the title that England is unnecessarily harming its citizens. But the second and perhaps deeper message of the song is about our individual reactions to political events and the consequences of speaking out and sharing our beliefs. What's very clever, in my opinion, is the way she shifts voice and perspective in the song to convey these ideas. She uses two different voices. While she begins the song with third person, when she sings, "I've said this before now, you said I was childish and you'll say it now," the narrative actually shifts from third person to second person, from an abstract geopolitical commentary to a very personal and adversarial conversation. And she stays in this voice for the next line when she sings, "Remember what I told you." And what's interesting to me is what's going on musically when she sings that line, "Remember what I told you," the loudest and most dynamic part of the song, and you can actually feel the heat of an argument. So ultimately, I just think it's a brilliant use of that person voice, convey different messages and different emotions. Because she's able to do that, she plays the same three chords through the whole song, and it doesn't matter. There's still very defined changes in the emotion and the intensity of the song, and she does it entirely through the lyrical content. So why did I cover this song? Well, Sinead passed less than a year ago, and the idea popped into my head when I heard the news. Of course, life and other music projects sort of got in the way, and nothing happened, but then a month or so ago, I watched the movie Nothing Compares, which is about her life in music. You know, it brought up a lot of lost memories of how good she was and what a raw deal she got from the industry and the public. And I definitely recommend the movie. The song choice was sort of predetermined, as I have a personal story, which I definitely will bore you with.
This is my story.
In college, I played in some cover bands. And one of these cover bands was an acoustic duo. Now, we had a regular gig playing happy hour on the patio of a local Mexican restaurant. And our repertoire was what you might expect for this kind of gig. You know, pop, rock, and folk from 60s and 70s. You know, Van Morrison, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Elton John, Neil Diamond, the Rolling Stones, Jim Croce, Carole King. You get the gist. And we love this stuff. But, you know, this is the heyday of college rock. And we thought we had pretty cool taste in music. And we wanted to play hipper stuff, you know. So we would pepper the set with REM, X, Nick Drake, Husker Du, the Pixies, you know, enough to excite us, but hopefully not lose the audience, and our $75 plus free drinks gravy train. So at some point, I threw Black Boys on Mopeds into the set to, you know, challenge my audience a little bit. Well, challenged they were, and I can tell you that there is nothing that 90s California college kids hate more than sitting through a folk protest ballad while getting tuned up for a night of binge drinking. But hey, what do you want for $5 pitchers and free tortilla chips? You know, in hindsight, that awkward 3 minutes we used to impose on our peers was actually one of the more legitimately punk things I ever did. And who knows, Sinead might even have approved.
Margaret Thatcher on TV, shocked by the deaths that took place in Beijing. It seems strange that she should be offended. The same orders are given by her. I've said this before now. You said I was childish and